Hello crafty friends and welcome back to my channel. Today we are creating another card for our Christmas in July series. Now, what I love about this design is that it is so versatile and can work beautifully with so many other occasions too. Scenic backgrounds like this offer much more creative freedom. You can play with colors to create a sunrise or a sunset scene or even a dreamy winter sky and then pair it with a sentiment to make a stunning card front. Before we jump into the project, I'd really appreciate if you could take a moment to subscribe to my channel for more fun and inspiring card making videos. Let's start by taking a look at the product I'll be using to create this beautiful background. Now, this is the Mountainscape stencil from the latest Friend Like You release by Simon Stamp. I'll admit, when I first saw all these different pieces in the stencil, I was a bit overwhelmed. But once I started using it, I realized how brilliantly it is designed to help you build a beautiful, layered, scenic background with ease. From those striking, jagged mountains to the sun or, well, the moon, and the soft, drifting clouds there, it all comes together so beautifully. What makes this stencil even more impressive is that it includes not just the layering elements, but also coordinating masks for each cutout. That means you can easily tape off the shapes and ink each section with precision, building up depth and dimension one layer at a time. This stencil would pair perfectly with silhouette stamps, landscape scenes, or even adventure themed cards. That's why I say it's incredibly versatile. You can bring in so many creative ideas to life using just this one single product. I'll be using my Simon's Stamp Positively Saturated inks to do all of the ink blending on this panel today. Normally, I'd use my sticky mat to keep the panel and stencil in place, but today I'm switching things up and using my glass mat from Glassport Studio. What I love about this mat is that it's magnetic, and as you'll see, the small magnets do a great job holding both the stencil and the panel securely while I ink blend. I find this especially helpful when working with tiny masks that can be tricky to keep in place with a sticky mat. Of course, you could also use a temporary adhesive or pixie spray if that's what you have on hand. For this card, I wanted to create a wintry night scene. So I went with the deep black tones for the mountains and a vibrant blue for my sky, keeping the moon bright white for some contrast. I started by ink blending the mountains using some gorgeous shades from the Positively Saturated ink line from Simon's Stamp. For this project, I used my trio of black inks, which is flannel, earl, and charcoal. Although the stencil includes mask, I like to add post-it notes for extra protection just to ensure no ink bleeds into the other areas of the design. I find the mask especially helpful when I'm doing ink splattering or blending over areas that already have color on them. Well, you'll see that later in the video. For now, I'm using tiny pieces of tape to mask the edges and keep everything clean. The stencil has three mountain layers, and I'm ink blending them with different shades of black to add depth and dimension, helping the scene look more realistic and visually appealing. I used the same color trio across the mountain layers, starting with the darker shade at the base and blending lighter towards the top. This creates the effect of moonlight gently hitting the mountain peaks. You'll also notice how I placed the magnets to securely hold the post-it notes in place. This helps ensure a seamless blend across the panel without the colors smudging into each other. Although charcoal is the darkest shade in the positively saturated ink line, I wanted something even more darker and deeper black for the base of the mountains. So I bought in my black pigment ink from Alteneu. It's a beautifully rich, crisp black. Now, if you don't have that on hand, you can absolutely use something like VersaFine Onyx Black ink or any deep black ink that you would typically use for stamping your sentiments or images. Just be sure to ink blend with a light hand, especially in those small detailed areas to avoid any harsh splotches or uneven patches of color. Now this panel here measures 4 by 5 and quarter inches, which is slightly smaller than a standard A2 size card base. Once I finished ink blending the mountains, I moved to the bottom of the panel, blending in the blacks to create a smooth gradient from the deep to the light tones, giving the base a nice sense of depth and flow. I'm already loving how this landscape is coming together. The rich black gradient really reminds me of my trip to the mountains, especially those scenic drives on a wintry night. Now, you might notice that I accidentally got a bit of ink on the white part of the panel, but I'm not too concerned since we'll be blending over that area to create our night sky. However, if this were a daytime scene with bright white sky and some clouds, I would definitely be more cautious to avoid any ink smudging in the white areas. Next, I'll bring the masks in to cover the top portion of the mountain along with the circular mask to create the moon. I'll secure both these masks in place with my small magnets. This is where I prefer using the stencils included masks instead of the post-it notes since the lower mountain layers already have ink on them and I'm not as worried about the ink slipping through. That being said, I'll have to be extra careful when blending around the moon as that area needs to stay crisp and bright white, so no smudges allowed there. To create a vibrant and dreamy night sky, I chose to blend three beautiful shades of blue. I have morning, twilight, and galaxy from the positively saturated ink line. My goal was to achieve a soft glow around the moon, so I started by applying the lighter shade morning closest to the moon and gave the effect of a gentle halo. From there, I transitioned into twilight, adding a bit more depth as I moved outward, and finally blended in galaxy towards the outer edges to intensify the richness of the night sky. To push the nighttime effect even further, I added a hint of black around the corners and the edges of the sky. This helps darken those areas and make the lighter tones near the moon stand out even more, giving the whole panel a sense of a beautiful depth. The gradual shift from soft glow to the deep night really brings the scene to life and captures that peaceful wintry night feel that I was aiming for. What's a night sky without some twinkling stars? I pulled out my silver metallic watercolor to add splatters across the entire sky. I used the mask to cover all the other stencil areas, leaving only the sky exposed for a starry effect. Now, when it comes to adding splatters, there's really no right or wrong way to do it. It It's all about what feels right to you. You may add as little or as more as you want. You might also notice that this time I'm not using my splatter box. Since I was working on my glass mat, cleanup is a breeze. I carefully splattered in a way that kept the mess contained, and when I was done, I just sprayed the glass with water and wiped it off with a microfiber cloth. After finishing the silver metallic splatters, I carefully removed each mask. Next, I added white splatters to create a snowy effect across the entire panel. One of the good things about working on a glass mat is that you can apply ink directly onto the surface for splattering instead of using an acrylic block, which is what I usually do. I splattered the white ink all over the panel to achieve that beautiful snowy background look. Once I was done, I sprayed the glass mat with water and wiped it clean using my microfiber cloth. I will leave a link to this glass mat in the description box below, along with a discount code that you can use at checkout. Now that our background panel is complete, it's time to move on to the sentiment. I originally planned this as a Christmas themed card, but this beautiful scenic background would also be perfect for friends who love camping, hiking, or any mountain adventure. Now, for my sentiment, I chose the season's greetings phrase from the Peaceful Trees stamp set. To ensure perfect placement, I positioned my panel into my Altenew stamp wheel and aligned the sentiment carefully using my grid transparency sheet. While you could add a sentiment strip, I opted to keep things simple and stamped the sentiment directly onto the panel. I was very careful when stamping, wanting to preserve that integrity of that gorgeous background we created. I didn't want to ruin this up. Now, I stamped my sentiment twice using Versify and Onyx Black ink to get a clean, bold impression that complements the design without overpowering it. I really love how simple stamped sentiment balances the detail of our background. Next, using the tree images from the same stamp set, I stamped the line of silhouette trees along the bottom edge of the panel. I layered charcoal and the black pigmenting by Altenew to build depth and dimension in the tree line, adding visual interest and grounding the scene beautifully. I also used my VersaFine Onyx Black ink on one of those trees to add a little extra depth and richness to the blend. I absolutely love how this panel turned out. Now all that is left is to adhere the panel onto a white card base. I used foam tape to mount it onto a top folding A2 size card base, giving it a bit of dimension and polished look. And with that, it's a wrap on our wintry night scene card. I absolutely love how this project turned out, from the layered mountains to the vibrant sky and those shimmery star splatters. It really captures the peaceful beauty of a snowy evening. What I especially enjoyed about these layered stencils and the ink blending is how much depth and dimension you can build with just simple tools and some creative layering. This design is so versatile too. While I created a Christmas themed card, the scenic background works beautifully for any occasion. Whether it's a birthday for a nature lover, or card for a hiking or camping friend, or simply a thoughtful hello to someone who appreciates the outdoors. If you're new to ink blending or using layered stencils, don't be intimidated. Take your time with the masks and blending, and remember that every card you make is a unique expression of your creativity. Don't hesitate to experiment with different color combinations and techniques to make your designs stand out. Now, all of the supplies that I used to create this card today will be listed down in the description box below. Please note that all of those links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.